Hello and welcome back to Roots. On today's episode, we're going way back in the history machine to the Revolutionary War. There were many amazing stories of courage and bravery from that time period, and one local story is that of Deborah Sampson. Okay, so here we are. It's 1782, in the middle of the Revolutionary War, and a battle should be coming through any second. Here it is. Now it might be hard to figure out what makes this battle so significant, but the reason is Deborah Sampson. Still don't see her? Well, that's because she was a woman who successfully disguised herself as a man and fought in the war. She spent most of her life in Sharon, but also some time in Stoughton as well. To get to the real start, though, we need to travel to Plimpton, Massachusetts, where she was born on December 17, 1760. Her parents didn't have much money, so she moved around a lot as a child, and at the age of 10 became an indentured servant to Jeremiah Thomas. Deborah seemed to get lucky, though, with it being believed that Thomas had been a very influential figure to Sampson. Mr. Thomas did much towards shaping the political opinions of the young woman in his charge, who early developed talent and a strong desire for knowledge. While she did do household chores, she loved being outside, and that's where she developed skills like hunting, riding a horse, and carpentry work. Over the years, Deborah was also becoming more and more patriotic, and she knew that she wanted to help during the war, but also knew that her options as a woman were limited, and that's where her idea of disguising herself as a man came to mind. What helped was that she was 5'7", very tall for a woman in those days, and also the fact that she spent her childhood working on a farm, being stronger and broader than the average female. Deborah traveled to Worcester, where she was unlikely to be recognized, and enlisted under the name Robert Shirtliff. She served successfully in the war for 2 years without her identity being found out. She scouted neutral territories, fought in combat, and even led men on expeditions and raids. In fact, during one battle, when she received a gash in her forehead from a sword and was shot in her left thigh, she extracted the pistol ball herself, all so she could keep her identity a secret. The truth behind Robert Shirtliff was eventually discovered, though, when she got very sick, lost consciousness, and was examined by the doctors who found the binders on her chest. Deborah was given an honorable discharge and returned home to Massachusetts in 1783. She moved to her aunt's farm in Stoughton, which is where she met her future husband, Benjamin Gannett, and had 3 children. Now, during the Revolutionary War, the Continental Congress offered a set of gratuity of $80 to all enlisted men who remained in service to the end of the war. Deborah Sampson, being a woman and given an honorable discharge, never got that money or any pension for the time that she served her country. So, in attempts to get her story out, she met with a writer named Herman Mann, who wrote her biography, The Female Review, or Memoirs of an American Young Lady. The book became a success, despite the fact that it's widely believed to be sensationalized and have many inaccurate stories in hopes of getting Sampson her pension. And she also went on a book tour called The American Heroine, where she came out dressed as a Continental soldier and demonstrated the loading of arms. It was said of the play that it was a novel undertaking. In the first decade of the 19th century, no respectable woman spoke on a public stage, and no woman at all had embarked, as she did, on a tour. In searching online, I found at least a half a dozen books written about Deborah Sampson. She even got her own segment on the Comedy Central show Drunk History, a link that I will provide in the description for those watching on the internet. After the success of her biography and the book tour, in 1805 she finally won a petition to be placed on the list of wounded warriors and got a partial pension. It was also helped, in part, by her friend, one Paul Revere, who wrote a letter to his fellow congressman on behalf of Sampson. Unfortunately, though, it would not be until 1819 that she finally received the full pension she deserved. Deborah Sampson lived out the rest of her life in Sharon and died on April 29, 1827. A statue of her was dedicated in 1989 and is right outside the Sharon Public Library on North Main Street in Sharon Center. She was even named the official state heroine of Massachusetts in 1983. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Deborah Sampson.